Hey guys, how's it going? This is going to be a little nuance after dark. The language is going to get a little frisky, a little open, so you might want to put the kids away. So I'm in the back of the van and I'm watching some programs on my phone. And what's the recent scandal, or what's the recent thing that our dear President Trump has done is he's talking to the American public and he's telling them and identifying with them, right? He's an everyman.
I don't think a beautiful baby girl that's 11 years old needs to have 30 dolls. I think they can have 3 dolls or 4 dolls. They don't need to have 250 pencils. They can have 5. We don't need for junk that we don't need. Much of it we don't need. You know, somebody said, oh, the shelves are going to be open. Well, maybe the children will have 2 dolls instead of 30 dolls, you know? And maybe the 2 dolls will cost a couple of bucks more than they would normally.
And he's telling American parents that they shouldn't buy their kids 25 or 20 or 30 dolls. No, they should have 2 dolls. And it's his argument to say that these tariffs are going to work. It's complete fucking lunacy. Most of my videos are about East and West, and I'm going to try and weave that together, but I really need to vent because it is so nuts that he is the representative of who we are as Americans. Like it or not, the American president is the representative of who we are as Americans. I knew from the moment he came down that escalator that this was going to be a 4-year disaster. I mean, really, like max, I thought 4 years. The Democrats screwed up. Listen, if you're a Trump supporter out there, I don't know what to say to you. I know that a few of you watch these videos. A bunch of you watch my other channels. Some of you, I don't know what it is. You're clinging on to some sort of hope that this man is going to change things for the better for America. He's going to make the decisions that you want to be made in order to make your lives better. And you think he's a great businessman. Listen, I thought he was a great businessman too when I was little and he had the Apprentice show. I applied to be on The Apprentice. I made a video for The Apprentice. For The Apprentice. It was called Matt in a Nutshell, and the cover of it had me inside a walnut. I thought it was so creative. I had superimposed myself into a walnut, and I made this video about how I was an entrepreneur and I was a go-getter, and that was me in a nutshell.
One thing about me is I'm very dedicated. I've been hit by pitfalls. I've been set back. You know, everything has happened that could possibly happen.
And I got accepted to another meeting, and then I got accepted to another meeting. I was going up the ladder to be on this show. And I remember I went to downtown Detroit for this like third cut. And I was at a boardroom meeting and there was a bunch of people there and we were all doing this fictitious argument for how to negotiate a deal. And I tried to make sure that I was part of that conversation because I knew that being part of that show meant that you had to be vocal. So I was like, yeah, we need to do this. And I was arguing with different people because I thought that what a neat idea as a businessman that I was at the time to get on this show and like promote myself and then maybe network with this really wealthy dude who has this real estate empire in New York. And I didn't get the position. Years passed and I ended up learning about Donald Trump. I came across a bunch of stories about this man. Lots of stories, like firsthand accounts from people who were contractors to Donald Trump back when he was building hotels in New York and New Jersey. And the story would be that if you were in New York, you knew 100% not to trust this guy. You knew it because he was a con man through and through. He had daddy's money and he invested in a bunch of properties and real estate was growing. New York, you know, if you can build a big property in New York, you got enough money to do that. And you can take the loans out and you can put them in your company's name so that you can go bankrupt and you still survive, you can eventually make a profit. But one of the ways he made his profit via reading all of these first-hand accounts, not like second-hand accounts. These were the people that made the deals with him. What he would do is he would go and say, I need carpets in my hotel. I'm going to get a bunch of quotes. And he'd go out and he'd look for these quotes. And he'd find a number of people that would be willing to give him quotes. Many people knew him well enough. I'm not even gonna try to do a job for Donald Trump, because in New York City he was known as a con man. But you would get these innocent, maybe recent immigrants to America trying to make it, you know? These were the people that were like the blue-collar workers in New York at the time. They were like the window installers, the plumbers, the electricians, the carpet guys, the painters, the drywall people, the metal fabricators, everybody, every concrete guys. And they would go and they would bid. And they would know that they were in competition with people, so they would bid low. And when they bid low, they would pray that they got the job. But they also knew that the profit was so slim because they bid low, because it's Donald J. Trump, that they're just going to use it as a stepping stone. Hey, I did the Taj Mahal paint job, or hey, I did the Trump Hotel, blah, blah, blah. And so these people would cut themselves so low to get the job. Donald Trump would end up picking those people, and they would put their blood, sweat, and tears into putting carpet in one of his hotels. They would do the project, they would do it on time, and they would do it on budget. Then when they would go and ask for payment, Donald Trump, and this is not one story, this is a bunch of stories, Donald Trump would say to the guy, I'll pay you half of what I promised. And when the guy would say, what are you talking about? I did it at basically at cost, and I did your whole hotel. And he would say, I've got an army of lawyers. How many do you have? Why don't you just take the half and be happy? Because otherwise, I'll bankrupt your company. It wasn't just one story. One story could have been just out of whole cloth. It was a lot of people. And then the comment section was all like, I used to live in New York City. I knew this. He used to do this to everybody. Oh, I had a similar story. Oh, my uncle had. Oh, my grandpa had. People started sharing over and over. And I was like, what a dirtbag, you know? This is not somebody that I would want to emulate. This is not somebody that I would want to represent me. I'm glad that I didn't get the opportunity to take part in the Apprentice show, even though I was so close. It could have been a really great opportunity for me at the time. Then he came down the escalator. He didn't want to be president. He was just joking around. It's pretty much proven. He was surprised that he had such promise, and he had such, excitement behind him. He said something at that point, and it was another illuminating experience. He came down that escalator, and I just wonder why people don't remember all of these things vividly in their mind. It's like they just say he's rich, so I like him. He comes down the escalator, and what did he say about Mexicans?
When Mexico sends its people, they're not sending their best. They're sending people that have lots of problems, and they're bringing those problems with us. They're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, they're rapists, and some, I assume, are good people.
They're Mexicans, they're bringing drugs, they're rapists, but he offered a caveat. He said, some, I imagine, are good people. When you say some, I imagine, are good people, you're putting a footnote so you have plausible deniability for saying they're all rapists, they're all murderers, they're all bringing drugs, and some, I imagine, are good people. I really was perplexed at that, because I was raised up to value integrity, to value putting meaning behind your words, and to have a big heart. My dad had a huge heart. He cared to a fault. My mom as well has a huge heart. She cares to a fault. She has undeniable empathy. She loves everybody. She would never insult somebody, let alone tack on the end to say, and some I imagine are good people. When you say some I imagine are good people, you're saying there's nobody. You're only putting that there so that you can say, see, I said some. I said some are good people. It's like why I attack these people that are always attacking China, because they're basically saying they're dirty, they eat dirty food, they're ignorant, they're gross. But some, I imagine, are good people, and I care about the Chinese people. That's what I get from the people that I critique on this channel, because they have no nuance. They're just bigots, and they're mean-spirited, and they're not looking at the good in the Chinese people or the country of China or the culture in China, but they add that little clause of deniability at the end by saying some, I imagine, are good people. I care about the Chinese people. I just don't like the Chinese government. But the food is ugly, and there's homeless everywhere, and they spit in the streets, and all of these sorts of things. There's some people that spit in the streets of China. There's some people that are a little bit dirty. Some of the food you have to be wary of. If you have a date with and marry a Chinese woman, there's a chance, a possibility that the tables can turn, and it can turn into a bit of a disaster, especially when you're separating or something like that. But most of them are good people. See? That's the correct way to say it. But the majority of them are great people. But instead, they say, some, I imagine, are good people. No, China is a great place. The culture is nuanced and beautiful, and the landscape is wonderful. And of course there's dirty places. Of course there's poverty. Of course I see some infrastructure buildings that are being demolished to make new buildings. And sure, there's these things here, but most of them are good people. Most of these problems in China are surmountable. Most of people in China see a better life than their kids. Most of them look at their leader, or let's not even look at the leader, let's look at the government as a whole and see that it's working for them. And that it's at the very least, professional and results oriented. So in America, corporate influence can change policy. Corporate influence can change anything. It can ruin people's lives. As I said in my last video on tariffs, these companies are taking advantage of this tariff situation to make more profits on the backs of the typical working man. Whereas in China, you would have a lot more regulations to protect the average person, and they do large-scale programs to improve the lives of average people. I was there. When they say they're going to build a road, they build a road. When they say they're going to build a train, they're going to build a train network. When they say they're going to reach out to other countries and try and build infrastructure, they're going to do that. It's not all going to be perfect, but they're doing that. When they say they're going to build a city, that city gets built, even if nobody's living in it, and it takes some time for that city to fill up. They're providing results. They're results-oriented. America's results-oriented too, but the result is a profit for the very wealthy in this country. So that was my perception way back. Why am I talking about all of this stuff that happened? That's old news. That's his first term. He's a refined man now. We picked him again, and he's going to do a great job. The President of the United States, within days of the Pope dying, posts a picture of him dressed as the Pope. I'm not a religious man at all, but that's got to be the most disgraceful thing ever. And you guys are all one of the major bases that voted for him. A imperfect tool, I think he was referred to. I got a lot of religious friends, and they say, well, he's an imperfect solution to a problem. At what point does an imperfect tool turn into a broken tool? At what point does an imperfect tool hammer the wrong nail and the house collapses? I think so many have been completely duped, and duped for so long that they've become cult-like. He posted a picture of the Pope. He said, yeah, I'd make a good Pope.
I'd like to be Pope. That would be my #1 choice.
How how is this somebody that you'd want to emulate? How does this exude any sort of integrity? For all of you that think that we're going to get respected or that we are going to come out of this smelling like roses in the global community, you are absolutely wrong. And for those of you who say screw the global community, then congratulations, you're going to get what you want, because we are pariahs in the world, except for right-wing, racist, authoritarian governments who might think that we're a pushover and we can be manipulated, and might think, yeah, this is great, I like Donald Trump. We are pariahs. I always put the shoe on the other foot. If Joe Biden or Obama was saying things like, I don't need to listen to the Constitution.
Your Secretary of State says everyone who's here, citizens and non-citizens, deserve due process. Do you agree, Mr. President?
I don't know. I'm not a lawyer.
Well, the Fifth Amendment says
I don't know. It seems it might say that, but
don't you need to uphold the Constitution of the United States as president?
I don't know.
I don't have to listen to the law with regards to this guy that was sent to El Salvador and he's now in this camp. I don't got to listen to all this stuff. I don't got to abide by the Constitution. I don't got to abide by nothing. You know what? Your daughter likes dolls. She can have two. You know what? I'm going to show you a picture of a guy's knuckles, and I'm going to tell you that those knuckles say MS-13, and I mean, it didn't just say MS-13. It had, skull and cross, and I mean, it was written in Photoshop. No, it wasn't even Photoshop. I remember when I saw that picture. For those of you that don't know, oh my God, you're so lucky. If you don't know that, you're so lucky. Donald Trump posted a picture of the fist of one of the people that he sent to El Salvador, the one I'm referring to. He was sent there against the law, and now he is in a torture camp in El Salvador. And he has a family here in America, and one of the pieces of proof, the chief piece of proof that Donald Trump shows is this picture of his knuckles, and they have tattoos on his knuckles. And they were so obviously put on there to indicate what they thought those pictures on his knuckles were. They thought that stood for M. They thought that stood for S. They thought that stood for 1, and they thought that stood for 3. And then they wrote below it the words. And he was in an interview. God forbid we don't put his feet to the fire. And he was standing firm that the guy had the tattoos of MS-13 in letters.
Well, wait a minute. He had MS-13 on his knuckles tattooed.
Oh, he had some tattoos that are interpreted that way. But let's move on.
Wait a minute. Hey, Terry.
He did not have the letter MS-13.
It says MS-13. But you're not being very nice. He had MS-13 tattooed.
Right, we'll agree to disagree. I want to move on to something else.
Terry, do you want me to show you the picture?
And he said, do you want me to show you the picture? And that reporter, there's your chance. Tell him to bring out the picture and make him say it in front of the whole world how much of a doofus he is. But no, the reporter said, let's move on to the next topic. We're not going to find middle ground on this. I thought this was your chance to actually put his feet to the fire, didn't. My point is that we are not serious. America is not serious. It's being run by a business real estate tycoon con man who in 2016 didn't understand how the processes and levers of government worked in order to get everything he wanted done. And he fixed that. He got rid of anybody that knew how his decisions would affect things and pushed against it. I mean, I don't know if you remember, but he fired generals over and over, fired secretaries of state, fired all of these, I can pick the greatest people, and he's firing all of these people because nothing that he wants to break is he being allowed to break. He's learned from those things, and in this term, he has only yes men, and all of these yes men will go along with anything he wants. And so there's no pushback. So the president has no clothes now. And he also has nobody that's going to tell him he has no clothes. In fact, he has people that are going to be like, that's the finest suit I've ever seen you wear, Mr. President. And we have to go along for the ride. Not even just you and me as Americans if you're watching this, but you as Chinese if you're watching this, and you as Europeans if you're watching us, and you as South Americans, as South Africans. I've said this in 2016, I'm going to say it again. Every step back that Donald Trump makes, every gaffe that he makes, every time he insults Christians or tells a mother that she will only be able to afford $2 as opposed to 25. Who the hell buys their kids 25 dolls? What the fuck do you think you're talking about? You won't be able to buy $25. Is that what you gave Ivanka, right? His daughter? You buy her $25 to buy her love? He even brought up crazy things like needing an ID to buy groceries.
You know, if you go out and you want to buy groceries, you need a picture on a card. You need ID.
And flushing toilets 15 times.
People are flushing toilets 10 times, 15 times, as opposed to once.
Who the fuck is buying all of this shit? Enough to elect this man. I realize the Democrats were horrible. They were. But is this better? He is sullying the image of being an American across the world. And if you don't care about that, fine. But he's going to screw you as soon as this tariff thing starts to ripple through. You're going to see people losing their job. You're going to see prices skyrocket. Oil is going to probably stay the same because that's the only thing he kind of has some control over. And anybody that says, fine, let's get rid of China, they only make shit.
To waste money on a trade deficit with China for things we don't need, for junk that we don't need.
Sorely mistaken. You're probably typing that on a computer made 90% of Chinese stuff. And we will see it. We're along for the ride. And every time he makes one of these gaffes, China is hedging its bets. It's pushing forward, it's pushing forward, it's pushing forward. Because you know what? For all the craziness you think about China, they are serious. They're no joke. They sit down in their meetings and they turn on the TV and they see what's happening in America. And you know what they say? They say, thank God we control the flow of information. You think we're encouraging China to be more free? They want to keep whatever's going on here away from there as much as possible. Because they see America as just screwing up constantly, screwing up and screwing up and screwing up, becoming pariahs, making a joke out of democracy, making a joke out of law and order. And every time they do that, they say, well, we're building cities, we're building trains, we're building ports, we're building ships, and America doesn't want our ships anymore. America doesn't want to do business with us. You know what that means? Opportunities for the rest of us. They did that with the climate initiative during the 2016 Trump administration, and they're going to do the same thing with everything else now. Nobody's going to trust America. They get an agreement like Paris Climate Accords in one administration, then they'll pull out on the next. They'll get an agreement for the Iran nuclear deal, and then they'll pull out on the next. And then China can come in there and be like, listen, we're China. We make all your stuff, you know, imperfections with every government, but we are serious. And we will go in there and we will get shit done. I have been to the Xinjiang region of China. It's very a politically charged topic. I have been there firsthand. I've met the local people. I've met Uyghurs. I've met Han Chinese there. I've met minorities all over China. I've been to the deserts of China. I have seen as far as the eye can see, for hours driving on the road, wind turbines spinning away in the middle of the desert, just spinning away, providing clean energy for China. I have seen fields of solar power. I have seen those salt-powered solar generators where the sun comes down, cooks the salt, and then it disperses the heat out to the solar cells around. I've seen that. And I have also seen the desert reclamation programs where, as far as the eye could see, they were taking a desert and they were turning it into fertile ground. capturing the power of nature and using it to the benefit of their people. And you know what? They talk about it. You see it on TV in China, and you see it here on YouTube sometimes. And you know what? People say, that's not cool, that's propaganda. Don't listen to that. Governments shouldn't be talking about the good things they do. They should be posting a picture of Donald Trump in a Pope outfit. They should be posting a video and talking about a video where Donald Trump is talking about how girls only deserve $2 and no more, no less. And this tariff thing is great. This whole tariff thing is fantastic because you know what? It'll limit the amount of dolls girls can have. Who the fuck told him that he should tell a girl he should only have 2 dolls? Call me wrong, but I see him as the type of guy that'll walk up to a kid in a stroller and steal a sucker right out of the kid's mouth and say, nope, you don't deserve that. Tariffs. But it's not about how much things are, it's just tariffs. It's like, because people were asking him, well, by saying that a girl only needs 2 dolls, you're saying that they can't afford the increased price of what $25 would be. And he's like, no, that's not the point. It's just the point is the kids should only have 2 dolls.
Are you saying Americans could see empty store shelves?
No, I'm not saying.
You're basically saying there could be some supply shortages because of the tariff.
We don't have to waste money.
We live in a weird time. And we need to remember all of this shit. Watching this video, I was talking about this doll thing, and I was remembering the stories that I had heard about Donald Trump, about how he cheated contractors, about how he manipulated people to do business for him because he had this prestige of being rich based on the amount of money that he had from his father's inheritance. And he took that prestige, he took that clout, and he used it to destroy people's lives. Like or hate the Democrats, they're not this type of evil. It's really frustrating that we even have to think about it. We created this country and it was built on a bunch of principles. It's not perfect. You know, America's not perfect. But when I was younger, when I thought about having kids, I was always like, I always thought of myself looking to that child and saying, you know what, someday you can be president. Someday, if you work hard, you can be president. But you know what? If you are, you gotta have integrity. You gotta be honest. You gotta get results. You gotta be a hard worker and have an equally large heart for the people around you. All of them. The rich, the poor, and everybody in between. The immigrants and the citizens and everybody in between. I don't know what's happened to America. I do know what's happened to America. Donald Trump has happened to America. But I don't know what's happened to Americans. I hope that we can shake out of our stupor, but I don't think it's going to happen soon enough. I'm really worried for the future of this country and sort of excited for the future of China. China has toiled for many years. China has been always waiting in the wings for an opportunity to flex its muscles and be a world power, and they have really taken the mantle of that. I hope that they can do that with prestige and integrity, and they can continue to try to rise up their middle class and rise up their rural poor. I don't think a lot of people realize how much power China has in its rural poor. In America, even the outskirts of America, people have opportunities to sort of lift themselves up to an extent. I'm not saying that poverty doesn't exist. I can go outside and see, I'm in a truck stop right now. I'm in the van in the truck stop, but I can go outside and I can find homeless tents. And I'll be in Portland eventually, and Los Angeles, and there's tons of people with drug and poverty problems. China has like a population as large or larger than the entire population of America that have yet to climb the ladder to middle class. That is an exceptionally powerful tool that China can use to grow. So they're on this upward trajectory. Whether whether we like it or not, or whether they want it or not. They have a lot of people that have a lot of growth potential. And as long as they're able to like make sure that they continue to get through, you know, real estate issues and these sorts of things and pitfalls and political pitfalls, and they don't fall too far down the rabbit hole one direction or another, they're poised to trounce us. And maybe we deserve it in some ways. If we're acting like this, and we're making these just haphazard decisions like this tariff thing, Donald Trump went out and he told people lies. You know, these tariffs are going to bring all this back. They're going to help all of these things. They're going to do this. Everything that he said had a counterpoint that was so obviously skewed. You know, they're going to bring jobs back until I renegotiate and then I make better deals with Vietnam. Well, that's not bringing jobs back. That's moving the Chinese jobs to Vietnam. I'm going to bring prices down. I'm also going to make it so it's harder to ship to America. There's going to be less product here. And if product does get made in the United States, it's going to be more expensive. Or the companies that hear the dinner bell that there's a tariff thing happening, jack their prices up so high, whether they pay the tariffs or not. You can watch my last video. If there's an opportunity for them to reap more profit, they will. So if Donald Trump says tariffs are going up in China, they know that means they're going to have to add a tax to their product. And if they feel like that, well, if we have to add 20%, we might as well add 50 or 100 because those stupid American consumers won't realize the difference. The prices are going to go down? No. Products are going to come back to America, like made in America, maybe in limited amounts, but overall, no. We're going to be respected? Hell no. We're going to be global leaders? Are you kidding me? We're going to defeat China. Well, at least through all of this, China will fall. China only sends 13% of their global economy to America. The rest of it, they have invested. And they haven't invested everywhere. They haven't invested in like first world economies, but they also have a ton of investment into third world countries. Countries with a lot of growth potential. We shied away from it. I think that when China built the Belt and Road Initiative, they reached out to America. They decided, they thought, hey man, this might be something we can partner on. Apparently, our trade advisor said that wouldn't be a good idea. We gave the project to China. And now we're ridiculing it. We're butthurt because we should have taken the opportunity to work with them. It would have been a great opportunity for jobs and growth and globalization to outstretch the American arms and embrace the world. Instead, we're shutting our doors, pulling down all the rafters, and we're closing up shop. Anyways, that's the rant for today. It's a long one. Hope you're doing well. We'll talk to you later.